If this video found you, it's not random. You didn't just scroll past it. You didn't land here by coincidence. Something in you paused. Something in you recognized the frequency before your mind even had time to analyze it. And that recognition matters. From an early age, you knew you were different. Not better, not superior, just different. While others seemed comfortable blending in, you felt like you were observing life from a slight distance, as if you were both inside the world and somehow standing just outside of it. You asked questions that made adults uncomfortable. You sensed tension in rooms before anyone spoke. You felt emotions that were not even yours, and often you had no language to explain any of it. People may have called you too sensitive, too intense, too quiet, too deep. Some misunderstood your silence as weakness. Others misread your discernment as judgment. You learned early on that not everyone could handle the way you saw through situations, so you adapted. You dimmed parts of yourself. You tried to fit into spaces that were never designed for your spirit. Yet no matter how much you adjusted, that subtle awareness inside you never disappeared. You may have felt isolated at times, not always physically alone, but emotionally separate. Even in a crowded room, there were moments when you felt like the only one awake. Relationships came and went, friendships shifted, environments changed, and through it all, there was a quiet thread running underneath your life, something invisible but constant, guiding you through experiences that seemed random at the time, but now feel strangely connected. Here is what you were never told: that difference was never a flaw. It was preparation. The sensitivity was training. The isolation was strengthening. The misunderstandings were refining your discernment. Every setback that forced you inward was building something internal that could not be shaken by external storms. While others were learning how to conform, you were learning how to see. While others were seeking validation, you were being taught resilience. You were not being rejected, you were being shaped. There is a calling on your life that has been hidden, even from you. Not hidden as punishment, hidden as protection. Because some assignments require maturity before revelation. Some purposes can only be entrusted to those who have endured pressure without losing their integrity. The reason it felt unclear for so long is because you were being developed in private. And now, something is shifting. You might feel it lately, a heightened awareness, a restlessness that is not anxiety, but anticipation. Old environments no longer satisfy you. Old conversations feel shallow. You are craving alignment, clarity, depth. That is not random either. It is activation. In this video, I'm going to reveal 3 signs that your hidden calling is beginning to surface. 3 indicators that what once felt like confusion is transforming into direction. 3 confirmations that the season of silent preparation is giving way to visible purpose. Listen carefully, reflect honestly, because if this message resonates, it is not by accident. If this resonates with you, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs this message, and subscribe to the channel, because what's coming next is not for everyone. The early isolation was training. Long before you had the language to describe it, you felt it. That subtle but persistent awareness that you were not wired like everyone around you. You could sit in a classroom, at a family gathering, in a circle of friends, and still feel slightly out of phase, like a signal tuned to a different frequency. You laughed when others laughed. You participated when required, but internally, you were always observing, always processing, always sensing something deeper beneath the surface of ordinary moments. You always felt different, not because someone handed you a label, but because your inner world was richer, louder, more complex than the outer world seemed to understand. While others reacted quickly, you reflected. While others were satisfied with simple explanations, you searched for layers. You sensed motives behind words. You felt shifts in energy before conflicts even began. And many times, you kept these perceptions to yourself because you quickly realized that not everyone was comfortable with someone who could see beyond the obvious. You never fully fit into your surroundings, even when you tried. You may have adjusted your tone, your humor, your interests. You may have mirrored the behaviors of the group just enough to survive socially. but deep down, you knew you were adapting rather than belonging. There is a difference between being accepted and being understood, and you often experienced the first without the second. People liked you, but they did not always truly see you. They heard your words, but they did not grasp your depth. That subtle disconnect can feel painful, especially in your younger years. When everyone else seems to slide effortlessly into friendships, identities, and roles, and you feel like you are still searching for solid ground. You may have wondered if something was wrong with you. You may have questioned whether you were too much or not enough, too intense, too quiet, too aware, too emotionally perceptive, too spiritually curious. The world often pressures difference into conformity, and when you could not fully conform, you may have internalized that tension. But consider this carefully. What if the discomfort was not evidence of deficiency, but evidence of distinction? You thought more deeply than others. Conversations that seemed trivial to those around you often felt incomplete. You wanted to talk about meaning, purpose, identity, truth. You were not satisfied with surface-level exchanges for long. Even as a child, you may have asked questions about life, about fairness, about suffering, about destiny. Questions that did not have simple answers. Questions that hinted at a mind already searching beyond immediate circumstances. That depth can create isolation, not because depth is wrong, but because it is rare, and rarity often walks alone before it finds its equals. You may have been labelled an overthinker. You may have been told to relax, to stop analysing, to stop feeling so much. Yet what others dismissed as overthinking was actually discernment in development. What they called sensitivity was perception sharpening itself. Your intuition was unusually strong. You sensed when someone was not being honest. You felt when an environment was not safe. You knew, sometimes without evidence, when something was about to change. And even when you ignored that inner voice to please others or avoid conflict, it was usually proven right later. That pattern likely repeated enough times that you began to trust your inner guidance more than external opinions. Still, that trust did not erase the loneliness. When you are intuitive, you often see the fracture lines before the building collapses. You feel the distance before the relationship officially ends. You detect the shift before the announcement is made. Carrying that awareness alone can be heavy. It can make you feel older than your years. It can make you feel responsible for energies you did not create. Now here is the truth that reframes everything. Isolation built inner strength. Every moment you spent alone with your thoughts was not wasted. Every season where friendships thinned out forced you inward. And inward is where identity is forged. When you cannot rely on constant validation, you are pushed to develop self-definition. When you cannot blend into a group, you are compelled to discover your own voice. Isolation stripped away the noise so you could hear yourself think, so you could hear something even deeper. You were not designed to blend in. Blending in is safe. Blending in is predictable. But blending in does not shift atmospheres. It does not challenge patterns. It does not awaken sleeping rooms. You were never meant to dissolve into the background of someone else's story. You were being shaped to carry perspective, to carry insight, to carry clarity into spaces that lack it. And clarity rarely originates from those who have always fit comfortably within the system. Think about the early wounds you carried, the betrayals, the exclusions, the moments you were misunderstood or unfairly judged. At the time, they may have felt like evidence that you were unwanted, but what if they were training grounds? What if each wound carved out more capacity for empathy? What if each disappointment strengthened your resilience? What if every time you were forced to stand alone, you were actually strengthening spiritual muscles that others never had to develop? Early wounds were spiritual training grounds. Pain has a way of revealing what cannot be taken from you. It strips illusions. It exposes false attachments. It teaches you how to stand without leaning too heavily on fragile structures. When you are young and you experience rejection or misunderstanding, you are confronted early with a choice: shrink to fit or grow beyond the room. And even when you tried to shrink, something inside you resisted full surrender. That resistance is significant It means there was always a core within you that refused to disappear. The separation you experienced was not random cruelty, it was strategic development. Because elevation requires stability, and stability is forged in solitude long before it is tested in public. You learned how to self-regulate your emotions. You learned how to observe before reacting. You learned how to endure discomfort without collapsing. Those skills were not accidental byproducts. They were prerequisites. If you had fully fit in, you might never have questioned deeper systems. If you had been constantly affirmed, you might never have built internal conviction. If life had been smooth and socially effortless, you might never have developed the depth that now distinguishes you. The very experiences that made you feel set apart were the same experiences that shaped your perspective, sharpened your intuition, and strengthened your inner framework. You were being prepared in hidden ways. While others were gathering popularity, you were gathering perception. While others were mastering performance, you were mastering awareness. And awareness is a form of power that cannot be easily manipulated. Now look back at your life with this new lens. The isolation was not abandonment, it was alignment. The discomfort was not proof that you were defective, it was evidence that you were distinct. The loneliness was not a sentence, it was a season, and seasons change. The training phase does not last forever, but it leaves its mark. It leaves strength where insecurity once lived. It leaves clarity where confusion once reigned. It leaves a steady core where chaos once tried to define you. You were separated before you were elevated. The repeated tests were activation cycles. After the isolation came something else, a pattern, a rhythm in your life that felt almost scripted. Challenges that did not appear once and disappear, but returned in different forms, wearing new faces, carrying the same lesson. At first you may have thought it was bad luck, then coincidence, then maybe even punishment. But over time, the repetition became too precise to ignore. The challenges kept repeating. You would conquer insecurity in one season, only to face a new situation that tested your confidence again. You would learn to set boundaries, only to meet someone who quietly pushed against them. You would think you had mastered patience, only to be placed in circumstances that required even more restraint. It felt like life was circling back to unfinished themes, revisiting the same emotional terrain until something inside you stabilized. There were moments when you asked yourself, why is this happening again? Why another betrayal? Why another delay? Why another misunderstanding? Why another season of being overlooked just when you thought your time had come? The repetition could feel exhausting. It could make you question your progress. It could tempt you to believe you were stuck. But repetition is not always stagnation. Sometimes it is reinforcement. Relationships came and left in cycles that may have felt confusing at the time. People would enter your life intensely, as if drawn by something they sensed in you. There would be connection, alignment, possibility. Then, just as quickly, distance would form, misalignment would surface. The same core issues would rise again in slightly different packaging. And you would watch as another chapter closed. You may have wondered if you were the common denominator, if perhaps something about you pushed people away. But look deeper. The relationships that left were often those that could not grow at the pace your inner world was evolving. They were aligned with who you were in one season, but not with who you were becoming in the next. As your standards shifted, as your awareness sharpened, as your boundaries strengthened, certain dynamics could no longer sustain themselves. The exits were not failures, they were calibrations. Opportunities also followed this pattern. Doors would open, just enough to let light in. You would prepare, invest, imagine the future, and then, unexpectedly, the door would close. An offer withdrawn, a project stalled, a promotion given to someone else, a plan that seemed certain dissolving at the last moment. Those near successes can sting more than obvious rejections, because you tasted the possibility. You felt how close you were. It is in those moments that doubt can whisper the loudest. You may have asked whether you were cursed to almost make it, whether you were meant to stand at the edge of breakthrough without ever stepping fully through. But what if those almosts were not cruel teases? What if they were rehearsals? Every setback was a level upgrade. Think of it this way. When you move from one level of strength to the next, resistance increases. The weight becomes heavier because your capacity has expanded. The repetition of challenges was not a sign you failed the first test. It was a sign you passed it, and now you were ready for the advanced version. The themes remained similar because the lesson needed to be embodied, not just intellectually understood. You were learning emotional discipline. You were learning discernment. You were learning patience that did not depend on visible progress. You were learning how to remain steady when circumstances fluctuated. And each cycle strengthened those muscles a little more. You were not delayed. You were being refined. Refinement is uncomfortable by design. It involves friction. It involves pressure. It involves the removal of excess layers that cannot survive the next stage. When something valuable is being shaped, it is subjected to heat, to compression, to repetition of force. Not because it is weak, but because it is being prepared to carry weight without cracking. Look at how you respond to difficulty now compared to years ago. The same situation that once would have destabilized you for months now unsettles you for days, maybe hours. The same rejection that once shattered your confidence now prompts reflection rather than collapse. The same silence that once triggered panic now invites introspection. That is not coincidence. That is evidence of refinement. You were tested in places where others gave up. There were points in your journey when quitting would have been understandable, when walking away from your own growth would have been easier than confronting the pattern again. Yet something in you kept choosing endurance, even when you were tired, even when you felt misunderstood, even when no one applauded your resilience. You stayed, you reflected, you adjusted, you rose again. Many people retreat permanently after their first major disappointment. Many allow one betrayal to harden them indefinitely. Many let one closed door convince them they were never meant to enter. But you did not. You may have paused, you may have doubted, you may have cried, but you did not surrender your core. Each test revealed another layer of your capacity. There is a difference between surviving a challenge and extracting strength from it. Surviving is passive, extraction is active. You did not simply endure your cycles, you learned from them. You observed your triggers, you studied your patterns. You became more aware of your blind spots. That self-honesty accelerated your growth beyond what comfort ever could. Pressure has a way of clarifying identity. Under pressure, illusions fall away. Under pressure, you see what truly matters. Under pressure, you discover whether your values are conditional or anchored. The repeated cycles in your life were not random storms. They were controlled environments designed to reveal where you were strong and where you needed reinforcement. And notice something else. Each cycle left you slightly more aligned, slightly more selective, slightly more grounded, slightly less reactive. You began to recognize red flags earlier. You began to withdraw from unhealthy dynamics faster. You began to trust your intuition sooner. The repetition was not punishment, it was progression. When you zoom out, the pattern forms a staircase, not a circle. It may have felt circular because the themes reappeared, but your response was never identical. Your awareness was never the same. Your boundaries were never as fragile as before. Each return of a similar challenge met a more evolved version of you. That is not stagnation. That is ascension through repetition. The near misses were teaching you detachment. The departures were teaching you discernment. The delays were teaching you patience without bitterness. And patience without bitterness is a rare strength. It means you can wait without becoming cynical. You can pause without losing hope. You can endure pressure without turning rigid. This is why the cycles were necessary, because the calling you are moving toward requires emotional stability under stress. It requires clarity in chaos. It requires a mind that does not crumble when outcomes shift unexpectedly. It requires someone who has already faced loss and remained intact. You are not fragile. You are forged. The repetition was not evidence that you were failing life. It was evidence that life was investing in your resilience. Each time you rose again, you were proving to yourself that you could carry more, that your foundation was solid, that your identity was not dependent on temporary approval or temporary success. Pressure doesn't break the chosen, it reveals them. It reveals their endurance. It reveals their adaptability. It reveals the quiet strength that does not need constant validation. It reveals who they are when circumstances are stripped down to essentials. And what has been revealed in you through these cycles is not weakness. It is depth. It is steadiness. It is capacity. The tests were never meant to stop you. They were meant to activate you. The hidden calling is now surfacing. Something is different now. Not dramatically, not with fireworks or public announcements, but internally, quietly, steadily. The same life you were living months ago no longer feels the same. The same goals that once consumed you now feel incomplete. The same conversations that once entertained you now feel thin. There is a shift happening, and you feel it even if you cannot fully explain it. You are beginning to see your purpose more clearly, not as a fully written blueprint, not as a detailed step-by-step plan, but as a direction, a pull, a gravitational awareness that certain paths resonate while others feel heavy. You are noticing what energizes you and what drains you with sharper precision. You are recognizing patterns in your interests, in your pain, in your gifts. The scattered pieces of your past are beginning to form a subtle outline. Moments that once felt random now feel intentional. The isolation, the repeated tests, the emotional endurance. They are not disconnected chapters. They are threads woven into a design that is slowly becoming visible. You may not yet know the full scope of your assignment, but you know this. You are not here to drift. You are not here to simply repeat cycles without evolution. There is direction in your spirit that did not exist before with this level of clarity. Your intuition is stronger than ever. That inner voice you once doubted now speaks with greater authority. You feel guided towards certain decisions without needing external validation. You sense when something is misaligned before evidence surfaces. You feel when to move and when to wait. And perhaps most importantly, you trust that instinct more than you used to. In the past, you may have overridden your intuition to keep peace, to maintain comfort, to avoid confrontation. But now, ignoring that inner guidance feels impossible. It becomes louder when dismissed. It nudges you when you hesitate. It redirects you when you drift. This strengthening of intuition is not accidental. It is a sign that you are aligning with your deeper design. Intuition is not mystical randomness. It is accumulated awareness. It is perception refined through experience. It is the voice that survived every test and came out sharper. When your calling begins to surface, your inner compass recalibrates. You stop seeking permission from the world to validate what you already sense within. You no longer fear loss the way you once did. This may be one of the clearest indicators of activation. There was a time when the thought of losing certain people, positions, or plans would have destabilized you. You clung to possibilities. You resisted endings. You tried to hold on to connections even when they strained your peace. But now something has shifted. You understand that not every door is meant to stay open. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Not every opportunity is meant to be seized. You have learned that loss is not always subtraction. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is redirection. Sometimes it is necessary clearing to make space for what truly aligns. When you no longer operate from fear of losing, you move differently. You choose differently. You detach from what does not resonate without bitterness. This detachment is not indifference, it is maturity. When a calling activates, attachment to the wrong things becomes uncomfortable. You feel it in your body, in your energy, in your thoughts. What once felt normal now feels heavy. What once felt exciting now feels draining. You are becoming more selective, not because you are rigid, but because you are aware. People who do not align with your frequency are drifting away. It is not dramatic, it is subtle. Conversations fade, invitations decrease, interests diverge. You may notice that certain individuals no longer understand your priorities. The version of you they connected with no longer exists in the same form. And instead of forcing compatibility, you are allowing the drift. This is one of the most misunderstood phases of activation. When alignment increases, misalignment becomes more visible. You do not need to argue with those who do not resonate. You do not need to prove yourself to those who misinterpret your growth. You simply recognize that not everyone is meant to walk into your next season. As your internal frequency shifts, your external environment begins to reorganize. When the calling activates, life restructures. You may not see immediate external success, but you will notice subtle rearrangements. New ideas entering your mind, new opportunities appearing unexpectedly, new connections forming without force. It may feel like the scaffolding of your life is being adjusted behind the scenes. Old routines that once felt stable begin to loosen. Old identities you clung to begin to dissolve. This restructuring can feel uncomfortable at first because change disrupts familiarity. But beneath the discomfort is alignment. Beneath the uncertainty is direction. New doors begin to open, not always in grand cinematic ways. Sometimes they open quietly. A conversation that sparks clarity, an opportunity that aligns with your strengths, a chance encounter that redirects your path. A sudden realization that what you once considered impossible now feels attainable. These doors do not demand desperation. They do not pressure you into urgency. They feel steady. They feel grounded. They feel like progression rather than escape. When your calling surfaces, opportunities no longer feel like random luck. They feel like synchronized timing. And perhaps the most profound shift of all, you feel peace even without all the answers. There was a time when uncertainty created anxiety, when not knowing the full picture felt unsafe, when waiting felt like stagnation. But now, even in the absence of complete clarity, there is a quiet confidence within you. You do not need to see 10 steps ahead. You only need to see the next one. Peace without answers is a sign of deep alignment. It means your trust has grown. It means your identity is no longer dependent on immediate outcomes. It means you are anchored internally rather than externally. You understand that purpose unfolds in layers, that clarity increases with movement, that certainty is built through action, not speculation. And because of that understanding, you are no longer frantic. You are no longer chasing. You are no longer forcing. You are responding. The hidden calling was never absent. It was waiting for your readiness, waiting for your emotional stability, waiting for your discernment to mature, waiting for your fear of loss to dissolve, waiting for your intuition to strengthen, waiting for you to become steady enough to carry what it requires. Now you are different, not in personality but in posture. You stand internally grounded. You move with awareness. You detach without resentment. You pursue without desperation. You observe without panic. The activation does not make you loud, it makes you aligned. And alignment changes everything. You are no longer searching for your purpose. Your purpose is searching for you. Now step back and look at your journey as a whole. The isolation, the repeated tests, the quiet strengthening, the subtle shift you feel now. None of it was random. None of it was wasted. And most importantly, none of it means you were ever lost. You were never lost. There were moments when you felt uncertain, moments when you questioned your direction, your value, your place in the world. But being uncertain is not the same as being lost. Uncertainty is part of growth. It is the fog that clears once elevation is reached. Even when you could not see the full path, you were still moving along it. Even when you doubted yourself, something greater was shaping you through every experience. No one is chosen by accident. Selection is not favoritism. It is alignment between capacity and assignment. The depth you carry, the resilience you built, the intuition that sharpened through adversity, these are not common traits. They were developed intentionally through your experiences. If your life felt different, it is because it required a different preparation. If your path felt lonely at times, it is because independence had to be forged before influence could be entrusted. A calling does not shout. It awakens quietly. It does not always arrive with spectacle. It does not always announce itself with clarity. It begins as a subtle knowing, a shift in perception, a new steadiness within you. It grows in silence before it becomes visible in action. The loudest transformations often begin in the quietest rooms, and what has been happening inside you has been quiet, but powerful.
Your hidden calling was never absent. It was waiting for your alignment. It was waiting for you to trust your intuition, waiting for you to release fear of loss, waiting for you to mature through repeated cycles, waiting for you to stop searching externally for validation and start recognizing the strength that had already been built within you. Alignment is not about becoming someone new. It is about becoming steady enough to carry who you have always been. Picture this moment clearly, the chosen one standing at the threshold of a new chapter, not surrounded by applause, not holding proof in their hands, not demanding guarantees, simply standing with calm certainty, looking forward with awareness, understanding that the preparation phase is ending and the activation phase is beginning. No fear, no rush, no desperation, just faith. Faith in the process that shaped you. Faith in the lessons that strengthened you. Faith in the direction you now sense even without full explanation. You do not need everyone to understand your path. You do not need immediate evidence to validate your growth. You only need the quiet conviction that you are aligned with what you are becoming. This is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of a visible one. The hidden years prepared you for the revealed season. The silence prepared you for impact. The tests prepared you for stability. And now, you move forward not as someone searching, but as someone stepping into alignment. If this message confirms something in your spirit, like this video, share it with someone who feels different, and subscribe, because your journey as the chosen one is just beginning.